Are you sick of banks giving you horrible savings return?
Can't deal with the ups and downs of the stock market?
There's another way. Well, depends on where you are, for now.
The solution is MaiMoney, a fintech platform that offers everyday investors, you and me, access to wholesale investment products and technology to help us grow our wealth. Isn't that cool?
$2 million in investments, growing 45% month over month. Let's figure out how they did it.
Real estate, culturally, I think it's seen as something that is very, safe and secure to build your wealth, but it's very capital intensive and not really very accessible for the everyday investor. Financial security is more than just money. It's about giving the freedom to focus on what truly matters in life. Relationships get you the meeting, but it's really important that you have to be able to communicate what you can bring to the table is what's important to be able to help you seal that deal. It's also a personal mission of mine is to be able to make sure that you help everyday Vietnamese take control of their finances by making financial independence feel achievable for everyone.
Welcome back to Founders in Motion. Today joining us, we have Nhi Nguyen. Nhi is the CEO of MaiMoney, a fintech platform in Vietnam that's making investing easier and more accessible for everyday people like us. By leveraging innovative technology and partnering with reputable local funds like Vietnamese Capital and IGT Capital, MaiMoney is bringing private wealth management experiences and competitive rates to everyday investors. Nhi, welcome to the show.
No, thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here, and especially being one of the first few people to join your podcast. And it's quite exciting to share a little bit more about my experiences and a bit about the wealth management space in Vietnam.
Yeah, and it's a long time coming, so I'm really happy that we got a chance to sit down and do this. And just to set the stage for listeners who aren't deep in the world of investing in Vietnam, can you give us a lay of the land? What are the go-to investment products and why do they dominate the market?
Yep. So there are a couple of investment products that are quite prominent in Vietnam. So you probably know real estate, gold, or bank deposits are there. These three are the main financial products. So first, real estate. Culturally, I think it's seen as something that is very safe and secure to build your wealth, but it's very capital intensive and not really very accessible for the everyday investor. There's also obviously gold as well. And I think it's seen as a financial product that you can actually invest to preserve your wealth. But the problem with gold is that it doesn't really generate passive income. And lastly, with bank deposits, that's a very, popular product that a lot of the Vietnamese people actually put their money into. It's very safe and secure, but it doesn't necessarily have be able to give you, the yield for you to actually build your wealth. Beyond those three financial products, there's also like the stock market as well. It's growing in Vietnam, but at the same time, it's very volatile. And so that I think that with the stock market, you actually have to have a lot of the financial knowledge or the time to actually invest, which a lot of the retail investors do not have. So I think that financial literacy is really important to educate customers to enter into the stock market. So I think those are the big financial products that are in Vietnam, but I think that's where MaiMoney comes in, and we wanted to make give more institutional quality investment products that are available just to everyday investors, and connecting them with our partner fund managers to distribute those products, so to help them build their wealth in a very simple and accessible way beyond the financial products that are prominent in the market.
So you've worked in financial products in Australia prior to starting MaiMoney. Can we talk about sort of some key structural differences between these two markets that impact investment options?
So in Australia, it's a very, obviously developed market with, deep capital markets and strong investor protection as well. In Australia, structurally, long-term financial planning is very built into the system. So I'm not sure if you heard about the superannuation system that we have in Australia. So I think it's similar to your 401k in the US, where the employers put a portion of the employee's salary into managed funds. So even if you're not really actively investing, you're actually building your wealth in the background and long-term financial planning. So a lot of the younger people have already been exposed to long-term investing from such a young age by just working for an employer, and it's a very automatic sort of process. And I think that's where, when I grew up in Vietnam, but I lived in Australia in my adulthood. And, despite studying finance, long-term financial planning was something that I wasn't exposed to in Vietnam. But I was sort of quite shocked that, in Australia, they have those sort of systems so that, even if I'm not really investing, I'm still building my wealth. And I feel like in Vietnam, we lack that. There isn't a system in place that encourages people to, help people to actually build their wealth long-term. So I think the superannuation system is good in that sense. And I think that the difference between that and the 401k is that it's actually mandatory. So I think that's a great thing that we have in Australia. And so I think, because of that, younger investors in Australia actually get exposed to investing in such a young age. In Vietnam, I think culturally speaking, obviously it's a little bit different where regardless of which income levels you come from, I think culturally building wealth is also building wealth. It's related to like family wealth. And so that, a lot of the younger people, when they first get started into, long-term financial planning, they don't know where to get started. And so I think that, obviously the two systems are like that because we don't have that superannuation system in Vietnam. So I think that's why the concept of, being able to build your wealth by yourself is such a new concept. But in Australia, it's very automatic. But I think it's also the range of financial products that are available in both markets as well. So in Australia, there's a broader range of financial products that, the retail investors get to invest into. So there's from ETFs to managed funds. In Vietnam, those sort of products are not as prominent. And only people are very used to putting money into savings account or, investing into real estate. But real estate is very capital intensive, as I've mentioned, and it's very difficult for your young people who just only get started to build their wealth, to be able to get access to those financial products. That is probably what I think is different between the two markets. So the structural differences in terms of the superannuation system in Australia, we don't have that in Vietnam, and also the broader range of financial products, but also financial markets in Australia is very transparent and very regulated and have strong investor protection. It does give the everyday investor, a lot of confidence to, invest into those financial products. Whereas in Vietnam, we don't have that yet. So people are quite hesitant, especially when it comes to new financial products that come into market.
Yeah, that's a great breakdown. And talk to me a little bit about why are these products like ETFs and I guess stocks in the recent days prominent in countries like Australia, but not quite so in Vietnam? Is it a supply or a demand issue?
I think it's more of, financial literacy plays a big part as well. I know that when I was in Australia, a lot of my friends are they're quite well versed in terms of personal finance and know how to really manage their wealth and understanding that level of risk and reward when it comes to different financial products. So I think there's a lot of educational materials and also education about personal finance and different financial products. It's quite ingrained in not just university, but also at they're during high school as well. But in Vietnam, I feel like this is not really that well established in terms of having a lot of financial education materials to better manage your wealth. So I think that the financial literacy is one of it. So because of, people understand the levels of risk and reward when it comes to investing, then, they're more confident in terms of okay, how do I make those informed financial decisions? But because, with ETFs and managed funds, I think ETFs, they're out there in Vietnam, but I think it's because of the financial education that is not really prominent in Vietnam, and hence why financial literacy is, is quite low here. But also because, like I've mentioned in the last question, I think there's stronger investor protections in Australia, developed markets like in Australia, but here obviously it's still it's a developing market in Vietnam, and so I think people are generally more cautious about investing into new financial products. So I think managed funds, and especially I think managed funds in Vietnam, they're not really so accessible. These products are usually designed for institutional investors or high net worth individuals that require a higher minimum investment amount. So that ETFs, they're quite accessible, but you need to understand that the levels of risk or having the time to research the market. But managed funds, there's not many options are available, and if they are available, they're available for institutional investors. So that with MaiMoney, we wanted to make sure that people have access to these premium financial products to build their wealth, and how do we make it very accessible for the everyday Vietnamese person? So lower minimum investment amounts, and they also can take part on investing like the professionals.
I really love that, and that's a great segue to learn a bit more about MaiMoney. So MaiMoney is flipping the script with its two flagship products, MaiCash, a flexible high-yield savings account with no withdrawal penalty, and MaiGreen, a long-term investment option focused on green assets. So with MaiCash offering up to 4.8% and MaiGreen reaching to 8.5%, significantly higher than what local commercial banks offer. How do these products differ from your traditional savings and investment options?
So I think the biggest difference between traditional savings accounts in Vietnam and most investment products is that savings accounts in Vietnam offer a lower return but like high levels of security, and whereas investment products, investment options are out there, they either are too complex or not really so accessible for the everyday Vietnamese investor. So we wanted to bridge the gap by making investing more simple as savings, whilst also providing significantly higher returns to help retail investors build their wealth. And how we do this is that we partner with our partner fund managers and do what they do best, which is managing funds. MaiCash is designed as something that's very flexible, high yield alternative to cash savings account. So cash savings account in Vietnam generally yield around 0.1%, but we wanted to be able to beat those returns by working with fund managers. And fund managers have a range of investment products that they can allocate the money into, rather than just traditional lending or government bonds. And so that we want to be able, with the MaiCash products, we want to be able to give a higher return, but don't penalize the customers if they need the liquidity or need to withdraw their money. MaiGreen is for those looking to invest longer term, especially in sustainable and green assets. So the MaiGreen product, we do allocate into prioritized projects or assets that are green, and also there's certain sectors in the portfolio that we're not really investing into. So I think traditional investment options in Vietnam tend to focus on real estate or stocks, which require a lot of capital and knowledge. But with MaiGreen, we give people access to high quality investments that are professionally managed by a fund manager that has a license, and you'll be able to create these portfolios that align with the investors' values as well as their financial goals as well. So I think what makes MaiMoney different is that we're not just offering investment products, we're providing the tech and the infrastructure to fund managers that they can leverage so they can reach new markets, especially the retail market. And we handle everything from onboarding, customer servicing, and even sales and marketing to the fund manager products, and to make it easier for, to reach retail investors and retail investors having access to those financial products to build their long-term wealth.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And we talked about a lot of different things that is hindering kind of the growth of financial investment products in Vietnam, and I'm sure there's a long list, but if you had to pick the top game changers that would need to happen in order to have higher adoption of financial investment products, what would they be?
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of things I think would need to change.
It's a long list.
Yeah, it's a long list. But what I can think about, I think I've mentioned before that I think financial literacy is probably a key factor. So a lot of people don't simply invest because they don't know where to start or really, know how to allocate their money. So I think the earlier that, we educate people about investing at such a young age, then when, time comes, they'll make that first step and be confident to make that first step into building their long-term wealth. So I think that, financial literacy is probably one of the most important things that probably needs to be able to increase. I also think that as Vietnam is developing, I think, I also think that regulation and trust is also important. So, as I've mentioned, in Australia, there's like strong investor protection and it's like a very developed market. And in Vietnam, the fintech space is still evolving. So if we have stronger regulations, that will bring a lot of trust in financial products, especially new emerging financial products in the market. So when people see that there's like rules and strong protections in place, that they'll be more confident and willing to make that first step to explore more investment options beyond the traditional assets, as I mentioned, real estate, bank deposits, and gold. I think ultimately, the last reason, the shift in mindset from just like short-term gains to long-term financial planning. In Australia, there's like the superannuation system in place, so they are forced to think about building their wealth for retirement and for long term. But right now, Vietnam, we don't have that at the moment. And also, I think the shift in mindset also shifting from instead of relying on family support, we should shift the mindset from that to more structured long-term financial planning. So I think encouraging a culture of investing for the future, and also whether it's for retirement or any of your important life goals, like for a wedding, buying a house, I think being able to shift that mindset will make people more comfortable and take that step to actually think about how do you build your wealth long term. And so we're quite transparent about, which fund managers that we work with, and we let all, in terms of our customers' investments, they're all managed by our partner fund managers and do what they do best. And we're just providing the tech stack and be able to service all the smaller clients that fund managers don't typically want to service, because it does require a lot of the infrastructure and time and resources. So they can outsource all the tech stuff to us and they do all the investing. So that does bring a little bit of trust to the market. But I think with financial products, especially new ones in Vietnam, to be able to gain that trust, it takes time. And if you're able to build that into the market by being transparent, making the products accessible, but also transparent about how the product's being operated, who's managing the funds, it's what really brings that trust back to the retail customers and making them more comfortable in making that first step.
More your personal journey now. What inspired you to really start MaiMoney?
Yeah, I think honestly a lot of things, but I have to pinpoint, I think it really stemmed from, two reasons. I think first, MaiMoney was actually born out of my experiences navigating my personal finance. So I think growing up in Vietnam and, growing up in Vietnam and also going to Australia in my early adulthood, I think that despite working in finance, I don't truly understand how do I plan for my long-term financial future. I think that those, obviously when I explained about the two markets, I wasn't exposed to the superannuation system at such a young age. And I think my early, work experiences were just in Australia. So I think I was exposed to, the superannuation system and you're being exposed to long-term financial planning. And I think that I saw that was lacking in Vietnam. And especially when the mindset when it comes to investing in Vietnam, it was very short-term or very FOMO driven. And if it's not that, then, then people, when they feel that they don't have enough financial education or financial knowledge, they'll start to just putting in money into bank deposits or putting in money into, not really taking a little bit of risk in the market. And so losing out on opportunities for long-term wealth building. And I saw that, even just like my friends, my colleagues in Australia, they're very well-versed in that area. And I'm just like, okay, I'm studying finance, but never really got started with that. So I wanted to bring that to Vietnam and changing that. Our mission is to be able to not just making financial products accessible, but changing the mindset when it comes to investing and also helping people understand the level of risk and reward when it comes to different financial products. So another major inspiration came from, when I started my own charity group when I was younger. So I raised $1,500 to build a playroom at the pediatric hospital. So I think that when I saw firsthand how families struggled to pay medical bills for their kids, struggling from cancer, I think it really enforced a belief that I have today, which is financial security is more than just money. It's about giving the freedom to focus on what truly matters in life. I think that's the combination of the two factors and two reasons really inspired me to start MaiMoney. So it's it's not just something that was, a professional mission, but it's also a personal mission of mine, is to be able to make sure that help everyday Vietnamese take control of their finances and not just giving them better access to investment options, but also by making financial independence feel achievable for everyone. So I think that's, there's a lot of reasons why I started MaiMoney, but I think it's really stemmed from my own personal experiences, dealing with personal finance and long-term financial planning, and me, experiencing the two markets in Australia and Vietnam. And also I think the inspiration for starting a business and entrepreneurship, and especially in this space, really stemmed from my experiences when I started that charity group and seeing firsthand how the kids were struggling and the parents were struggling with medical bills. It really touched me. So I really made it my personal mission to make sure that I create a platform that everyone can be able to easily achieve that financial independence. So I think it's an exciting journey that I'm trying to do so far.
Yeah, I really love that. Truly a go-getter from the start. And for context, like 1,500 might not sound like a lot for US or Australian listeners, but in Vietnam, like that's like life-changing money that people could create a lot of things with. So obviously with MaiMoney, you've landed amazing partnership with major fund managers like Vietnam Capital and IDG. Getting that first big partner on board is often one of the hardest challenge. So how did you do it?
For myself, it's definitely not about like cold calling. I think it's important that you leverage the existing relationships that you have. So in my network definitely opened doors, but I believe that obviously like your network and relationships can get you that first meeting, but being able to bring value and proving that you can bring value to the table and execution really matter more than anything. So we handle everything from the tech stack, the tech processes, which is customer onboarding to servicing, to also do marketing and sales, to the fund manager products, and also just leaving the fund manager do what they do best, which is managing your customers' investments. And I feel that you're being able to demonstrate that and proving that MaiMoney can bring value to the table, and obviously bringing revenue for fund managers is what got us the deal. So a key lesson, like I've mentioned, is that relationships get you the meeting, but it's really important that you have to be able to communicate what you can bring to the table is what's important to be able to help you seal that deal.
Yeah, I really love that. And it seems like MaiMoney is doing amazingly well, but every startup hits roadblocks. So what have been some of the biggest challenges that you faced with MaiMoney so far, and how did you push through?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of challenges, but I think the first challenge that we faced was that, especially in the fintech space, in financial services in Vietnam, being able to, building that trust to the market is very very important, but also is a challenge for especially newer startups in fintech trying to enter the space. So I think Vietnamese people are naturally cautious when it comes to new financial products, especially with so many new platforms emerging. So the challenge was convincing users that MaiMoney is a credible solution and its useful long-term financial planning really took time. So we tackled this by being as transparent as possible about our partnerships with our fund managers. So fund managers are focusing on customer investments, and we handle the tech stack and doing the marketing and sales to the fund managers. I think it's important to be transparent of how our model works, and understanding where the money is being invested into is important. I think another challenge is that obviously bridging that gap between traditional finance and technology. So many investment products in Vietnam especially with managed funds, they're designed for institutional or high net worth investors, and adapting that concept to everyday investor is also, whilst also keeping the process seamless, is a big learning curve for myself and my team. Obviously we have to make sure that, even the everyday investor can get access to those products. So designing the product was a challenge, but also making sure that the platform integrates smoothly with the infrastructure of the fund managers and how they operate is also another challenge as well. And I think the last challenge that I found is, I think not just, obviously in the fintech space, but I think with any startup, scaling is also an ongoing challenge. So we've been fortunate to have early traction, but growing that user base and getting people more comfortable with investing is still an ongoing effort to this day. I think that's why we wanted to focus on and double down into, obviously like product simplicity, and making sure that every touch point from onboarding to customer investments to withdrawals is as as frictionless as possible.
Yeah, I love that. You're really thinking about everything. And hopefully, like, appearances in podcasts like this could also help with explaining a little bit about kind of MaiMoney's ethos, how the funds are managed, and how everything works. And what is next for MaiMoney in 2025? Any exciting updates or features?
You should follow our socials to get more updates on what we're building on MaiMoney. But to be honest, I think 2025 is going to be an exciting year for us. And, just being able to launch just 1 year ago, almost 1 year. I think our birthday or our launch day is on the 29th of March. So I think it's still a month away. But I think this year it's been quite quick. I didn't realize that,
It's only been 1 year.
Yeah, it's only been 1 year.
Wow, the team has accomplished so much.
Yeah, honestly, obviously I think that first milestone, that 1-year-old birthday, I think MaiMoney is like my babies. It's an exciting time and a very important milestone. But this year is going to be quite exciting for us because we're planning to scale the platform by. Right now we have the MaiGreen and MaiCash, but we want to be able to introduce more goal-based investing features so that, making investing easier for, V2 investors. So whether or not you're planning for a wedding, a house, buying a house, or just retirement planning, we wanted to be able to bring that goal-based features and have customized portfolios for each of those goals to help people plan for their financial futures better. But we're also, because as we're scaling the platform, we also want to expand our network and be able to work with more fund managers to originate products with them. So it's going to be delivering more financial products as well as being able to have goal-based investing features. But we're also exploring ways in how we can integrate AI into making investing more personalized and giving more personalized recommendations. So the vision for us is that we want to make investing as effortless as possible. So people can set their goals, and we provide the technology to be able to help our everyday investors get there.
Well, I'm sold. If I had any funds in Vietnam, I would totally invest with MaiMoney.
Really nice to be able to, obviously talking to yourself and, sharing obviously the challenges and, not just the wins, but also the challenges of building a startup, especially as an early stage founder and in Vietnam, and sharing that light. I feel like a lot of people can relate to the same experiences, but it's just my own personal journey, and it's still going on to this day. And it's important just to keep pushing through. This will happen, but being able to be resilient and push through to all those challenges, it's a very important skill that you need to have. So so I think it's great to be able to share my experiences today.
If you want to check out more early stage founder stories, you can check out this playlist. And until next time, do hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps out the channel and helps us continue to deliver these stories to you and to more people out there. Okay, bye for now.